Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another Buddy webinar. Today, we are going to talk about one of the best development combos there are, Buddy and Pantheon's Multidev environment. Uh, because I am not such an expert as my guest, I invited Jose to help me a bit explaining what this multi-dev environment is. So, Jose, before we'll jump into all the things related to Pantheon, tell us something about yourself.
Yeah. Besides the fact that I have rainbow hair, obviously Jose Castaneda. I work at Pantheon as a developer advocate. I've been at the company for the last almost 3 years. It'll actually be 3 years in July. Before that, I worked over at WebDev Studios, and this was actually how I got introduced to Buddy, which was awesome. And I was like, oh my God, I love this. I want to use this later on. So,
yes, and my name is Maciek Pamowski. I constantly work here at Buddy as a WordPress ambassador and as your regular webinar host. So today we are going to cover quite a few topics. So first of all, why is Pantheon different from other hosting services? Because it is different. What is this multi-dev environment I mentioned before, and how we can set up Buddy to work together with multi-dev environment. Okay, so before we jump into the topic, remember, if you like what we are doing here, if you like our webinars, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, we posted as a poll on YouTube about are you using multi-dev environment, so please respond, it will be great. And I think that's it. It's time to talk about Pantheon's multi-dev environment. So Jose, first of all, how is Pantheon different than other WordPress hostings?
So one of the ways that it's different is that we actually have the 3 environments. We have test, we have dev, and we also have a live environment. The really cool part about it is the test and live environments are actually locked down. So they are Git versions of course, the dev environment. We also do have other features. We also use one of the things that I really like using a lot of the time is Quicksilver. It's kind of like the WordPress hooks, but for the platform. And then we also, of course, have the multi-dev environment, which we're going to talk about today, which is a phenomenal way of testing features, testing stuff. And one of the cool ones that I've seen so far is actually testing design options. Someone actually decided to completely redo their site on a multi-dev environment. Their design was completely different, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and the cool part about the multi-dev environment is that the only thing similar that I saw was on Netlify or Vercel, where every time when we deploy something to a branch, we get this preview URL or whatever it's called, because it's named a bit different based on which platform we are using. And this was always something I missed in the WordPress environment. I really remember that, if I'm not wrong, Aaron Edwards from WPM Udev mentioned that they have something like this behind the scenes. So this is something they use for their platform, but not for the users. So I also remember that when I work at an agency, in most cases we had only one staging environment, and we were a bit fighting for it. It was who was first, and quite often we sent the link to a client, and in the middle it was overwritten by someone else.
Yep.
So having this possibility to create as many staging environments as possible, or is there a limitation with multi-dev?
So there is a slight limitation at first. There's about 10 that you can actually create, but you can reach out to support and ask them to increase it, which I think is 25 or 30. I can never remember off the top of my head, but I want to say it's around that area. But yeah, that's one way of doing it.
Yeah, let's be honest. Having 10 staging environments at the time should be enough, because if you are not dealing with your features 10 at the time, you have a bit bigger problem rather than just not having multidev before. So that's true. Okay, so I think that enough of theory. Let's start showing up what how multidev looks like. So let me share my screen. So constant question, you can respond in the comments. Is the font big enough, or should I increase it? I don't see any comments yet, but we'll see it probably in the moment that someone will say that the font is too small. Okay, so as you mentioned, Pantheon always uses Git somewhere in the.
Yep.
So that's why I created here a repository that is based on the Pantheon WordPress specification, and there is only one difference: this .buddy folder. And in this .buddy folder, we will have a script that will let us create a multidev environment each time we will push something to production. There is quite a bit of code, but the most important thing is that it uses this tool called Terminus. And Jose, could you explain what is Terminus?
So Terminus at its basic is essentially the API for the dashboard, but on the command line, which is amazing to do because oftentimes we as developers don't like to touch, a graphical interface, and we're just like, oh, all these shiny buttons, what does it do? And it breaks. We're more familiar with sudo do this or command do that, right? That's essentially what Terminus is. It's a basic way of running commands for the dashboard.
Yeah, exactly. The problem with Terminus is that while it has a lot of possibilities, you really need, in most cases, some kind of bash wrappers to make everything working. Because, like I said, it's powerful, but you also need to learn how to use it. For example, here, this is the simple example. We had to create a function that checks if the multidev already exists. And so we have to list all the environments and check if the one we are using right now is already created or not.
Yep.
If not, we will be creating a new environment. So as you mentioned, this is kind of an API for the dashboard. So let's take a look at the dashboard, because this is also something. So as you mentioned, we have those three environments. We have the dev, the test, and live. And if we would like to push something between the environments, we would have to deploy it using either dashboard, either a specific Terminus command. And here is the most important part of the day, the multidev.
Yes,
you can see all the environments that are already created. You can delete them, you can merge them, you can see which of them are ahead, which are behind. And what's most important, you can at any point just see how they look like. At this point, this is our site. That's it. It's working. And we can update the database of each environment separately. So we can test many things the way we want. So this is something
that's like the beauty of the whole containerization system. That's why it's like it's all contained within one little thing.
Yes, exactly. So okay, so like I already showed you this deploy script. So now let's take a look how it looks like. How does it work? So I already created the Pantheon action, because creating a new environment always takes a bit of time. So I decided
Mhm.
that I won't show you how to create the new website or things like this, because it would only take us time, which we are limited in. And we'll start with this deploy to Pantheon action, so a pipeline. And it consists of two actions. First of this is Terminus Multidev, and second is push to Pantheon. So first, let's analyze them, and then we will create some change in the code and see how it's working. So this Terminus Multidev will do only one thing in reality. It will just run this deploy script. First, it will authenticate. That's why first we have to remember to install Terminus by adding this in the environment. The cool part about Terminus, it's so well documented that if you just visit the documentation, just follow the instruction, Control-C, Control-V, and you should get everything working. So really kudos for the great documentation. Next thing, here you can see that we are using this Terminus authenticate login with machine token. And the machine token is another thing that is always needed to be set up. As you can see, we have quite a few variables. First of all, we have the git URL. This is the URL of the Git repository that the Pantheon is using. Because overall, we will be, it's here. You can see it in the connection info. That's this repository.
The cool part too is on that one, there's actually two different locations you can get it from. There's that Git connection, and if you actually look on the development mode as well, there's a little pop-up that shows in there. So if you close the connection and then clone with Git, that will also give you that same.
Oh yeah, that's true, and I can even see the detailed instruction. Exactly.
Yep.
Great point here. This is also the thing you should remember, that you will be working with two Git repositories at once.
Yes.
Because we will have this Git repository that I have on GitHub, and this will be the place when we will store our code. And on the other hand, we will have this Git repository inside of Pantheon, which will be, I would say it will be our file system. But
I was going to say it's more like our remote rather than that. Our GitHub one is like the source of truth.
Yeah, exactly. Also a great comparison. Another thing that we have here when it comes to variable is this machine token. Could you explain what is the machine token?
Yeah, so what's really funny is I had to think about this one too the other day. I was like, what exactly and how can we compare it? The machine token is very similar to like the GitHub token that you use. It's a way of authenticating. That's like the quickest way. It's like a little pass saying like, oh, hey, we have this. This is our password. We're going to use that. And we are this person, or we are using this token with that.
Yes.
And the cool part is you can set as many as you want too. So it doesn't have to be just the one. You can recreate another one being like, oh, hey, I totally figured out what I used for this one. Let's just create a new one. Because I've done that a couple times.
Yes, and the place you can do it, it's in the account, in the machine tokens. And you have to copy this token and better hide it, because it's kind of an important information that you shouldn't share with the rest of the world.
Yep.
Next thing, we have the Pantheon site. The Pantheon site is this ID that we have in our URL when we log into dashboard. We will use it quite a few times using Terminus. And we also have the site name. And in some cases, we will use one of those. They are not interchangeable. Some commands would prefer one value over another. And we have the site URL. This is a helper variable that we created that will store something from our deploy script. It will store our branch, the environment URL, so we can pass it later, for example, in Lighthouse or in something different. Okay, so these are all the variables. Like I said, here we just launch this. This is kind of important thing with this dot before, because this means this shell script will run in the same shell as the rest, so we can save some variables and keep them for later. This is an important part. And when we'll generate it, we will use the git push action, and we'll use the git URL we have already. We'll use the ID key that we'll be able to copy into our Pantheon environment, because we can use the SSH keys here and we can copy it and we will be able to authenticate. And the only hard part that is left is the gitignore file. Why it's difficult? Because normally we don't store some things in Git, like we don't store the vendor folder, we don't store, what else? I would say node modules, but
I was gonna say it's essentially thinking of like what we don't want to version control. That's a good way of putting it too. It's like, what do we not want to keep in our repository? Let's ignore that.
Yes, but because our Pantheon Git repository is a bit more of a file system, we want to keep it there. So the best practice is to copy the gitignore that we used for our WordPress and fix it a bit. Remove the lines that we won't need. In our case, I just added that we don't need to copy the .buddy account, the .buddy folder. But dependent on your configuration, sometimes you will like to push the vendor folder. Sometimes maybe you would like to push the node modules folder for some reason. It all depends on the project. But for sure, thanks to using such approach, because there is a command in Terminus called Multidev, and no, it's build command, build push, right? Something like this.
Oh, for deployments?
Yes, for pushing with. Yeah, there is one command, and it sometimes has a problem when working with multiple Git accounts set up at once. And in many cases, when we are using CI/CD, there is the second Git environment somewhere underneath. So there can be problems, and that's why I decided that it will be easier just to use the git push action and configure it in a perfect way. So we got it. So the only thing that is left is to create a new branch, right? So let's do it.
Yeah.
So let's find my favorite file that we can edit. It's a README HTML file. Oh, and one more thing. Remember that the main branch has to be master, right?
Yes.
Yes, because for a moment I was using the main branch and I was kind of surprised that I had some trouble with Multidev. Okay, so let's find. First thing first, I already did some changes here, but let's add some more smileys at the end. And let's create a new branch, and let's call it Web1. And here is also another thing. There is a limitation when it comes to the length of the Multidev environment. What is it?
It's 11 characters.
And why?
Part of that is because of the DNS record. When you create a branch, it's essentially creating a new site with that branch name attached to your site. So if you have a super long name branch with your site called "This is really ridiculously long," and then you have super long with ridiculously long .pantheonsite.io, that creates a slight issue with the record.
Yes, and right
I
now
mean,
we
it's a
can
great
see
URL.
that the no multidev was found. It's creating.
Mhm.
It takes a bit of time, so we have a moment to talk about something else. So, Jose, we have a Star Wars Day today because
Yes.
it's May the 4th. What is your favorite character from Star Wars world? And everyone, post your favorite character from Star Wars in the
Yes.
comments.
We want to know. And even your least favorite character. You never know. What's really funny too is like you can see I'm still wearing my actual like Star Wars t-shirt, Death Star. I have another one that's a yin yang with the two TIE fighters and the X-wing. But no, my favorite character actually was and always has been Yoda. And part of that reason is just because growing up, I used to watch the Muppets. I used to love making the noises, making the voices, and over the years, I learned how to kind of do that. So Yoda was always one of my favorites and go-to to actually imitate. So that was my favorite. What was yours?
To be honest, it was also Yoda because he was always the smart one, and I fully understand why he did escape to a swampy island far away from everyone else. I mean, I sometimes feel the same, although I try to have a bit better contact with people. So so I live at the outskirts of my city rather than on a swampy planet. Oh, I see.
Did it finish?
That we have something from Alan, my town. They are so
yes.
And Jose, I learned one thing during one dry run about you, about this imitating voices.
Oh yes, yeah, my favorite ones, like I said, Yoda. It was just because of that. I remember one day I just out of nowhere was like, strong with the force you are. And I was just like, oh, okay, why not? Let's do that. And like I said, it was Kermit the Frog that originally started because it was Kermit the Frog here. Going to teach you about multi-dev environments. But Yoda is much wiser.
And to be honest, this was really the I think it was the most important moment of our dry run when I learned about this. It was like amazing. Yeah, because we are still waiting a moment here, and those creating of new environments sometimes can take longer, sometimes shorter. It all depends on our main environment, because if we have a bigger database or a lot more files, they have to be copied from one environment to another. So yeah, sadly it all takes time. And now we reach this. I was gonna say
actually too, the cool part about that is on Terminus, when you actually create that little part, you can actually define from where you're actually cloning from too. That's the cool part about it. So it's like, oh, do I have to do it from live all the time? Not necessarily, right? Let's say you're doing between two different environments. You want them to look about identical as possible. So you can test something like doing A/B testing, right? You don't have to necessarily clone from dev, test, or live. You can do it between a different multi-dev environment as well.
Yeah, that is okay. So everything got deployed. So let's see. First of all, is the site working? Because this is the first thing. It is. And let's go into the README HTML. Yes, we got those smileys. Everything is perfectly fine. And the cool part is here, as you see, we exported this variable, the site URL. So after the deployment, we can play around and start automating some tests, because there are many ways we can test. So first of all, let's check if the website is alive after each deployment, because this is one of the most important things. Now it sadly takes a while because we have so many actions, and while I'm streaming and everything at once, it's the web action. Webpack, New Relic, Web. Okay, so we can just use our variable here.
Yes.
And I remember that we have something in the footer. Just let me go back here. For example, we have this proudly. So let's check if the site contains proudly. This is one thing. Let's add this action. And another thing, maybe let's test the lighthouse score.
Yes.
Because it's also something very, very important these days. So let's add lighthouse. And again, we are just using the same variable. So every time we deploy a new brand, a new environment, or we use the same one, because now let's just go here and maybe change something again, so you can see that. Yeah, I'm gonna do something with a README HTML file again, because it's one of the easiest ones. It's much easier. Oh, I did not refresh the file. Let me do it right now, because I already see that it was the previous version of the README. Oh no, it's the wrong branch. It's my fault. Yeah, so we'll change it in a second.
I like what Alan said on there too. One of the things that he likes to do is visual comparison testing. Oh, it's a phenomenal way of doing it too.
Yes,
and Buddy makes it easy too. That's the beauty of it.
Yes, we could also do it, but we would have to launch it twice, and I think it would. Yeah, but using the visual testing would be also a great thing. Now, dear Edge browser, behave nicely, because you are trying now to. Okay, so let's go back into the README HTML file. Let's edit it again. And
we'll add some check marks to it.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, really. I think I will have to invest in a bit. Oh, the page isn't responding. Let's wait a second. Yeah, I should really invest in a bit better computer for streaming. I never thought that I would be doing this in my life. Yeah, this is something that you constantly learn. Really,
I mean, we're always learning too, though, so that's good.
Yes, we are constantly learning things like this, and for some reason now this is really getting out of hand. So let's refresh this once again, and I hope this is the last time. Okay, now it's perfect. There it is. We did it. So now let's add some sad faces, because it was a bit troublesome to.
Right.
And let's commit directly to Web1 branch. And let's see what happens. In a second, it should. Yes, it's running already. And let's take a look at what is happening during this action. We see the Multidev Web1 already exists, so skipping creating it. Now I just realized that there may be one thing missing in the script, but we'll see. I may be wrong. Now we are pushing this change into Pantheon. And right. Yeah, it was a quick test, because everything was, and we saw that the validation is successful. So it was responding, and now we are waiting for the lighthouse results. And we see it was 99, 100. So we passed everything. Nice. Everything is working. And all of this that we were able to pass our variable, our URL as a variable. So this makes it really, really cool. Okay, so we already played a bit with all those environments. But what if we would like to push them further? So we would like to merge them and move them to first the development environment, then the test one, then live one. So here is a little problem that we discussed earlier on with Hausa. So because we are using two separate Git repositories, you have to remember that only one should be the source of truth. And it should be the one that you have in GitHub, not on Pantheon. So the best practice would be not to use as many features as possible inside of the dashboard. So if we would like to merge this branch, the best way would be, I think we created a pull request about the web one? No.
Yep.
No, we didn't. I skipped this, but let's create quickly a pull request because so let's do it. Let's create the pull request. Let's create it and let's merge it automatically. Merge pull request, confirm merge. So at this moment, of course, everything will run here because it will try to push everything into. Sorry, it was this.
Yes.
I was playing around with something. Yeah. So here, it will just push everything into the development, environment. Also, because I set it up to run automatically, I should do it to run manually, but it's not big of a deal. I created an action that will move everything from development to test. Again, we were using Terminus for this. So there is just one action for this. And again, the environment, it looks like in the previous one. What we are doing, first of all, we are authenticating, and we are using this command terminus environment deploy. We're using our name and .test. It means that we will move our development code into the test environment. We can also use .live. It will move our test site into live site, right?
Yep.
Yes. And there are some parameters, if I remember. Could you tell a few words about them?
On test in particular, you could actually do when you deploy, you can say, yes, I want to clone from live environment. And you can also add I think it's the clear cache. So once that's done, obviously deploying, it'll clear the caches shortly after, which is cool. And it's amazing at times because it's cache, likes to be cached sometimes.
Yes, and if I remember, we can also move something without the database, without the content, and yeah, this is the thing that happened here because it was deploying code to test and deployed code to test. That's it.
Yep.
So at this moment, if we would go to the test environment, we can click the visit test site, and if we would go to the README HTML, we should have, for some reason,
we need to deploy it.
Oh, right, because it just moved the environment without deploying. Sorry, my bad, of course. Of course, there is probably a command for this in Terminus too, right?
Yes, environment or env:\deploy. And you can deploy it to test and then deploy to live.
Yeah, so we could also automate it as a part of our pipeline.
Yep.
Or not. It's up to us how we want to work with it. Because we have the saying in IT, it depends. It depends. So we are waiting a moment for this. This is this one. It's Still not here. So yeah, so deploying.
Should be done
So yeah,
shortly.
yeah, about the Star Wars again. Which trilogy do you like the most? The oldest one, the middle one, or the
Only
newest?
one. There's only one, the original 3.
The original 3. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's see. This is interesting. For some reason, it did not deploy the README. This is strange, to be honest. Let me check again. Yeah, it's
Could clear caches.
maybe this one. Let's clear the caches. Yeah, because yeah, it was. Of course, it's something is going bad. It's always the cache.
Yep.
So yeah, as we can see, this is how we can automate our working with Multidev environment together with Buddy. Of course, we can create another pipeline that will go one step further and push everything from test to live. We should also use the fact that we are already using a CI/CD software, so we should add more actions here. We should test more. We should add some unit testing, integration testing, as mentioned by Alan. Visual comparison, Lighthouse. We should test on every step because yeah, testing often will help us to not deploy bugs to production, which is kind of important. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to show when it comes to deploying the environment. Jose, would you like to add something about the Multidev? How, in which other way we can use it, and are there some tricks you would recommend?
So what's really cool, like I was saying, multi-dev environments are freaking amazing because you really can test a lot of stuff. We actually, when I was on the support side a couple of years back, we had one company who actually redid their entire site. Like they rebuilt the entire theme, the entire look on a multi-dev environment, and then pushed everything live, and it just worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was ridiculous to see. Like, I think it was maybe a couple months worth of work trying to get everything sorted out. And because they were able to clone from the live environment to that multi-dev environment, they were always in like, okay, so it's going to work this way, it's going to work that way. Then pushing to dev, then pushing to that test environment, they were actually able to test even further, being like, oh, we can load test most of this stuff. And it worked for them. The day that they switched everything off, they're like, oh, it just worked, which was awesome. It's great to see. And one of the things that I like doing is and recommending, especially if you're like starting with something new, is testing plugins, right? You can test updates that way. That's kind of how we used to do it over at Web Dev Studios. You'd get the Git branch, you'd branch off, create a new update version, test that way. Cool part is you can visually test now because of that. As Alan was saying, that comparison, it makes it so much easier for you. You can test core updates this way, which before you'd have to do everything on live or even on a staging environment, which not always going to happen because you have people constantly doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and in most cases we have one staging environment and we would like to test many cases. I mean, it would really work great having together, I mean, using Bedrock, because Bedrock is using Composer. Composer to manage plugins and our core, so it would be so much easier because we just change the plugin name, we just change the plugin version, we just push it to another environment, and we can see what happens.
So it's fun that too. So on the platform, we actually have a way of using integrated Composer. So all you have to do is actually push the Composer lock and Composer JSON file, and the platform will compile everything for you. That's actually a really cool way of testing that feature too in a multi-dev environment, being like, oh, hey, will this work for us? If it doesn't, you can at least say, hey, we tried it out. It doesn't fit our needs. If it does, awesome. You can push it to the main branch.
And also there is one amazing thing about such testing approach, because
Mm-hmm.
every plugin like to leave something behind in the
Yep.
database, for example, or in
Oh
one
yeah.
file somewhere in the uploads. Uh, most of the plugins don't clear, don't clean up after themselves too well.
Yeah.
Mm, So in this way, when we push everything into one of the multi-dev environments and we just decide that no, it wasn't it, it just left all this garbage inside of
Mm-hmm.
the multi-dev environment that we will just remove if we were not satisfied, or we were satisfied but we decided, okay, so we'll implement it, time to create a task, time to create what we want to do with it, and the whole story about it. We just did the testing, so the basic, if it's working, if it's not working, if it's working as it should, or maybe the server exploded the
Yep.
minute that we activated it. So yeah, this is something really, really great. And tell me, is it possible to switch the version of PHP on different multi-dev environments?
Yep. Yep. That was actually one of the things too. I can't remember, one of our universities that we host. They're like, oh, how when PHP 8.0 came out, they're like, oh, do you guys have it on the platform? We're like, yes, at the moment it's slightly, of course, in beta version of it all. And they're like, oh, can we test? Yeah, you just change this little flag on the Pantheon.yaml file, and it'll rebuild that container using that PHP version. And so you could literally have each individual environment testing like, oh, 5.6, 7.2, 7.4, 8. And I want to say 8.1 is coming out, but I don't fully remember when,
Oh,
which I was
okay.
like, oh, I'm looking forward to that, of course, because, 8.1.
Yeah, then this is a really amazing way to just to test your stack, test your plugins.
Mm-hmm.
It depends whatever you are doing, because you will behave a bit differently when you are a plugin developer, when you are a theme
Yep.
developer, when you are an agency.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I mean, I should have this big banner just saying it depends. It
Yes,
depends, and
yes.
this and
Another
really
example
this
that
is
actually came to
this is
mind
our
was
motto. Mhm.
like the forms plugins. How many WordPress form plugins are there really out there available? You could literally test almost every single one of them on each individual multi-dev environment, being like, oh, here's one for Gravity forms, here's one for
Mhm.
WP forms, here's Woo forms, here's this other one. You can test
Contact
those.
Form 7. Contact Form 7 is
See?
the one and only. For me, Contact 7 is the one and only, because I can put all these shortcodes inside of HTML, so I can do
Nice.
whatever the designer thought of. Okay, so honestly, if any one of you in the audience didn't yet try the multi-dev environment, really do it, because you can even use it in the sandbox mode, so just for the internal use, for free. This is the way how I did it and how I run this webinar. So you can really work with you. The only problem is that you can't probably use your domain. You have to stay on the Pantheon site IO probably, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for testing, it's not big of a deal, and if you get used to it, you will probably be interested in buying it, because it's a really, really helpful tool. Okay, so
Yeah.
we have some questions, and if you have any more questions, you still have time to ask them in the comments on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, whatever you are watching us. So let me see. We have this question from, of course, from Alan. Uh, I've encountered a fair amount of issue when deploying code to Pantheon over the years. What suggestion can you provide when using a private GitHub repo and pushing changes to Pantheon?
So one of the first ones that comes to mind is, obviously, if you haven't already, look into using a custom upstream. That's one way. The other could potentially be, depending on what kind of issues you're having, obviously reach out to support. I know at one point when when I was at the Web Dev Studios side, we did have some issues from time to time when it wouldn't push completely. Like it missed one or two folders and we couldn't figure out why. Even I'm still stumped on like why it wouldn't push certain things. So I was like, that's a new one. So we'd just redeploy again and it would show up. So it was really interesting to see.
I mean, I think that the way that we cover it during the webinar, so not using the Terminus to do it, but just create a separate action to push something to Git, this should solve many problems. Although, if you still encounter them, yes, contact the support of, or because it's Alan, you know each other, so yeah, you will probably have a private chat after this webinar. Okay, and from what I see, this is the last one. Okay, so I think it's time to slowly wrap up everything. So first of all, Jose, thank you very much for helping me with the Multidev environment. I really learned a lot. It was I really had to play a bit with Bash and learn it because I'll be honest, in most cases my Bash skills are just those one-liners, and this time I had to write the script behind the one-liner and learn a few things.
Well, the cool thing is you learn from it. That's actually what I ended up doing too, because we have an internal site, or we have like 8 internal sites that we use for like training, and that's kind of how I learned like Bash scripting as well, using Terminus with that. We update all the sites all at once, and it's just automated now. All I have to do is click a single button, and it does everything for me.
Yes, I mean, the Terminus is a very powerful tool. You just have to get used to it. That's it, and then connect all those skills. I mean, like I mentioned, Bash is quite different than writing in PHP. But as you said, I learned something new, and probably few more webinars, and then maybe I will be doing a webinar basics of Bash or how to start.
Oh, you totally should.
Oh, I don't think so. But
I think Alan is volunteering. It looks like he's automating everything with Bash. So
okay, so yeah, that's okay. So I think that I will just have to quickly change the image of the next webinar. It will be Alan McKenzie automating your life with Bash. So that's it. But and in true honesty, in 2 weeks we will have another webinar, of course. This time with CyberDuck, we will talk a bit about Drupal. I never ever did a webinar about Drupal, so this is something also new to me, and I really can't wait to learn something about it, especially that I saw that Drupal is constantly changing. So yes, I really can't wait, and I really love to see what other CMSs are doing, because the fact that WordPress has the majority of the market doesn't mean it does everything in the best way. Some might be doing it better. It's just a good practice to use the things that other do better and do the same on our end. Also remember about our meetup group. We have it. You can sign up there and you will be informed about all the upcoming webinars. And like I mentioned before, if you like our webinars, if you are satisfied with what we are doing here, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will also get informed about the upcoming webinars, and not only because we are publishing some other stuff there, and something new is coming soon. So really subscribe and wait for something to happen. Okay, so Jose, again, thank you very much. It was really great doing this episode with you, and thank you to everyone in the audience. Have a great Star Wars day, and I think we should once again watch the original and the only trilogy
Mhm.
that ever was created, and maybe Rogue One, because Rogue One is also cool. I really love the Rogue
It's
One.
debatable.
Oh, yeah, so okay, we'll discuss it in about 5 minutes. Okay, so bye everyone, and have a great Star Wars day.